Okay, so this next story really slipped under my radar. I wasn't aware that this was going on, but as soon as I learned about it, I felt compelled to give a word to it because this is outright evil what's going on here, and it sets in a very ominous precedent going forward. So, if you aren't aware, there has been legal robbery by cop occurring for some time now, but relatively recently, this situation that I'm about to talk about really brought it to my attention. So, in Kansas and in California, police, have been using something called civil forfeiture or otherwise civil asset forfeiture to stage armored car heist, stealing money earned by licensed marijuana businesses. Yes, you heard that correctly. To put it in even more layman terms, cops in Kansas and California have been pulling over people that work for marijuana business, specifically the business that we're going to talk about today, which is called Imperial, and robbing them. Yes, that's what's been happening. And this is an article from Reason. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's pretty lengthy, but I really actually implore you to check this article out because it's absolutely incredible. And the situations that go on, you'll just cringe at. And it makes you sick. They're literally robbing people, and this is incredible. So, 5 times since last May, sheriff deputies in Kansas and California have stopped armored cars operating by Imperial Logistics, a Pennsylvania-based company that serves marijuana businesses and financial institutions that work with them. The cops made off with cash after 3 of those stops, seizing a total of $1.2 million, but did not issue any citations or file any criminal charges, which are not necessary to confiscate property through civil forfeiture. That process allows police to pad their budgets by seizing assets they allege are connected to criminal activity, even when the owner is never charged, let alone convicted. Imperial, which is represented by the Institute for Justice, argues that the seizure of clients' money violated state law, federal law, and the U.S. Constitution. In a complaint it filed last Friday in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California, Imperial says it is entitled to protection from highway robberies, regardless of whether they are conducted by criminals or by the sheriff and federal law enforcement agencies acting under color of law. And they give various stories here, but I'll just give you a very quick one. So on May the 17th, Dickinson County Sheriff's Department, Caitlin Robertson pulled over one of Imperial's vans on Interstate 70 in Kansas, ostensibly because the Colorado tag number was partially obstructed by the license plate. Long story short, he grilled the driver. He let her go on her way, but they spied on her. Okay, the DEA kept an eye on the van the following morning as it visited Missouri dispensaries. And what did they do later that day? The same officers stopped that van and seized more than $165,000. Just hundreds of thousands of dollars stolen. And guess what? None of these people ever get charged. They never get taken in. Nothing. They just rob them and dip. That's what's going on here. It's legal robbery by cop. It's absolutely insane. And even worse, the Justice Department can file a complaint seeking to keep the money. And if the government prevails, the Dickinson County Sheriff Department will get up to 80% of the loot under the Justice Department's equitable sharing program. And to make matters even worse, when they seize the money, they can give it to the FBI. And once they give it to the federal government, it's even harder to get the money back because the rules, as I'll show you here, as it pertains to the federal government, are even looser. So it's actually in the police's best interest for them to hand the money over to the government. But let me get into this. And this is incredibly interesting because in Kansas, recreational marijuana, the selling of it isn't legal, but for medicinal use, it is. But in California, it's legal all around the clock for recreational use to sell it for that and everything else. But this is interesting. The stops and seizures in California raise additional legal issues because that state, unlike Kansas, allows the sale of marijuana for medical or recreational use. It also explicitly protects companies like Imperial from harassment by local or state law enforcement agencies. By a 2020 law, A 2020 law says a business that transports cash or financial instruments or provides other financial services does not commit a crime under any California law, solely by virtue of the fact that the person receiving the benefit of any of those services engage in commercial cannabis activity as a licensee pursuant to this division. Despite that law, San Bernardino County Sheriff deputies stopped Imperial vans 3 times in November, December, and January, seizing more than $1 million. Look, they're outright breaking the law. They're taking money from law-abiding citizens. This is absolutely incredible. They stopped the guy that was only carrying coin cases, thinking that he had cash. After they realized he didn't have any cash, they let him the fuck go. Let me break this down for you. Oh, and by the way, if you were wondering why they have cash, marijuana is illegal at the federal level. Federal law overrides state law. So because of the federal prohibition of marijuana, it makes banks and payment processors leery, as this article points out, of serving state licenses cannabis suppliers. So many of these businesses rely heavily on cash, which exposes them to a heightened risk of robbery, but not robbery by another citizen, robbery by cop. Let me put this into perspective for you. First of all, this should be illegal. They should ban this quick, fast, and in a hurry. It's downright unconstitutional. They're violating the rights of these law-abiding citizens. But let me put this into perspective. If I walk into a convenience store and I take a bag of chips off the shelf and I exit without paying for it, either I'm going to get caught on camera or maybe there's an officer there at the scene. Either way, somebody's going to show up at my door later on or right then and there and ask me to stop, put my hands behind my back, put me in handcuffs, and take me down to a station where I will be processed. These cops are pulling people over and doing the exact same thing, except they're not taking a bag of chips. They're taking hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars and getting off scot-free. How is that any different from what I just described to you? Why is it that when they have a badge and a little bit of authority, they get to act with outright impunity to the point of robbing American citizens? What is this even about? And it really makes me sad because I don't see how this gets resolved. Maybe it does, but I say that because guess who supports civil asset forfeiture? And this may surprise you if you were previously unaware of this. Our VP, our Vice President, Kamala Harris, supports civil forfeiture. Look it up. She's on the record. This is amazing. This is amazing. And we know Joe Biden's a drug warrior. He still hasn't legalized marijuana. Him and Kamala Harris. I recently made a video about Kamala Harris. And he's on the record saying it as well. On the campaign trail, he will decriminalize marijuana and expunge the records of those who have been tried for just using the substance. First of all, they need to legalize it. Secondly, he hasn't even done that. He hasn't even done that. I think it's a little bit over 2,000 or so people, I may get that number wrong, that are held at the federal level for using marijuana. People that are in there for life, for decades, that have been there for decades, their whole life. I mean, look at what's going on. I love how police robbing you isn't considered a crime. It's considered legal, but smoking a joint and not bothering anybody is considered a crime, an offense that you can go to jail for possibly the rest of your life. I mean, just look up some of the sentences that people are serving for simply engaging in cannabis use. This is a broken system. This is a broken country. I mean, what's going on? And then they get on the news and tout freedom. Oh yeah, we're free here. Yeah, free to get robbed by the people that are supposed to be protecting us. And I'll leave you with this. And this is the irony of this entire situation. We get treated like this. We get robbed by policemen. And when we act out, when we don't like our treatment, and when we take to the streets, as people have done in the past, they deploy these same people that are robbing us to put us down, to stop what we're doing, to stop the protest. Words can't describe how this makes me feel. This is incredible. This is wrong. This should be illegal. It's damn sure unconstitutional, and it needs to stop.